Hello and welcome back to the Eat to Grow podcast. Today we're going to be diving into all things regarding body image. So we wanted to start off by sharing kind of some personal experience with our body image and kind of the journey that we've kind of both gone on in terms of our own body image. So Kate, in terms of like body image, when you first started to like recognize body image like issues per se, how old were you?
Probably around, mine started later because I was always so skinny.
Yeah.
So it started around high school where it was like, it hit puberty and I was like, oh, where's all this coming from?
Sure.
Basically.
Yeah.
But I know a lot of people when they were younger, it was like, oh, they like would talk about how they were bigger and they would, I was the one being compared to. They were looking at me and being like, oh, I want to look like you. And I'm like, I'm not doing this on purpose. I was like, this is not a purposeful thing when I was younger, but
yeah. Okay.
And it also like took a toll on my mental health when someone's like comparing yourself to me. I'm like, I might look good, but my mental is not there.
Absolutely. And I think that's one of the biggest issues that I see like with the clients that I'm working with and even my own experience. Like when I was in the trenches of like my disordered eating, and honestly, even when I was competing, when I felt my worst, I looked my best. And I would always receive like so many compliments, like, oh, you're so lean, or you got so skinny, how did you do that? And it's like, those comments in some ways can be really detrimental because it can fuel that unhealthy behavior with food and like fuel somebody's disordered eating further. And I think similar to you, when I started to notice that I was comparing my body to other people's body, like my friends, as young as like maybe 7 or 8 years old.
Right.
And like I remember feeling like, it sounds crazy, but I remember feeling fat and wanting to lose weight like before I was like 10.
Right.
So I think, and at the time I definitely was like a very healthy weight for my age. So like to have that dysmorphia at that young of an age, I think is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
But
I looked up, there's stats that it was like 42% of kids in an adolescent want to be skinnier.
Yeah.
Like how crazy is that?
Yeah, so I'm in this body image training course right now, which is super cool. Marcy Evans, my former professor, she has like basically an online school of like continuing education units for RDs. And also like people that just want to take them, you can be a health professional, you can be a health coach, like they're open to like whoever they want. But I'm in that training right now, and the research does support that you start noticing like, or having a desire for thinness as early as 5 years old.
That's crazy.
So it is crazy, but I think mine definitely worsened in middle school because I started to kind of get teased for my body in middle school. So I was like, that definitely doesn't help when like your peers are like saying that there's something wrong with you basically. And I also had a doctor's appointment too, where the doctor was like, you're on the cusp for overweight. And what was so bizarre is like, she brought up the fact that like heart disease ran in my family. And she was like, yeah, and you know that runs in your family, and you know, people in your family have passed from that, and so you need to be really cautious. And like,
and how old are you?
I was 14.
Right? Like,
and so it scared me so much. I would say like my motivation to like start going to the gym, it literally started that day, which is kind of, it's sad, but in ways good because I found what I love. But like, it was, yeah, so I was like, I need to go to the gym, I need to like lose weight. And like, I was 14 and like conducting a weight loss journey on my own. Like, that's really not good.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
Really dangerous.
Especially at 14. That's just so...
Yeah.
I can't believe the doctor actually said that to you. Like, just put all that... Yeah, she's being real, but she put that all in front of you when you're 14, when your mind is still growing.
Right.
And then it's just going to instill so many bad habits out of that, just from her saying that.
Yeah, and that year later, so I'd been going... So I was my 8th grade year, and then I was going to technical high school. So like, I grew up in Tewksbury, because I don't live there anymore, I feel fine to say that. I grew up in Tewksbury, and then I went to this high school in Billerica that's like a Shawshing Technical High School, and that's where I found like my passion for cosmetology and all these great things, but there was also a part that I wanted to get away from like the Tewksbury kids. I did. That was so true, and at the time I would have never admitted that, but I did want to get rid of them. I wanted to get myself away from them because I was like so unhappy there. And so yeah,
just done with their like mindset of you.
And so then I like tried to like lose weight and go into my first year of high school like being this new person essentially. And in some ways it was great. I found the gym, that was lovely, and my passion for nutrition, but it also led to like my disordered eating like continuing to spiral because I was losing weight. People were like, oh my gosh, Kelly, you look so good. And I was like, oh great, cool, people are giving me compliments now.
I'm gonna keep doing it.
Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of like what my body has, and I had really poor body image at that time, for sure.
That's so awful.
Yeah. But I think what is good though, and I'm kind of happy that I went through all of that experience, because I'm so much better off in terms of relating to like people I work with, or like just like other people in life.
Right.
Because so many people have had a similar experience, like in healthcare, and then also like growing up, like having that judgment. And
Exactly.
That pressure. But I think too, like when we were growing up, or at least me, it was still like kind of like early 2000s, like we were reaching the 2010s, and like really skinny bodies were like in.
Yeah.
That was like the trend. So I think that played a role as well. Very toxic.
Like trendy bodies. That's a whole nother thing. It's like,
Yeah.
we go through periods of time where, oh, it's great to have like a big bum and a small waist, but like you look back 10 years before and it was, you have to have no bum, and like you have to be skinny as a stick. And it's just crazy that we've made, as a society, like all of us have made that a thing that people need to follow.
Yeah. And I think like using the Kardashians as like a good example.
Absolutely.
Like they made the BBL like trendy. Right. Like they did. They made a body type trendy. After, I would also say what's interesting in the body image course that I'm in regarding how much like race and ethnicity like play a role in our body standards. And like for, you know, that time, I think a lot of people in the Black community would say that the Kardashians were kind of mimicking some of their features and kind of taking that, running with it, and then they kind of like made money off of it.
Exactly.
And so
they were profiting off of that, of how they look. I mean, it's just...
And it's crazy because it's like, well, then 10 years prior to that, that was not the desired look. And it's like crazy how fast those trends can like change, and like how deeply rooted this ideal body image is. And it's honestly what's so crazy. It's like a lot of it's rooted in racism, which is nuts.
I think a lot of things are rooted in
it
racism
is,
too.
but
it's like appropriating and all of these things. I wonder if that's something that ran through in the Black communities. Like, are they appropriating our body type?
Yeah.
And it's
so I think there's definitely, and you know, BBLs are like one of the most dangerous surgeries you can get.
Right.
They're so dangerous.
Also, another thing, a lot of people think that if you get a BBL, your body's just gonna be like that. You have to keep up with it. Like that's a very unknown fact. You actually have to like change your entire lifestyle, and you have to like go to the gym. You have to keep up with this body type. It's not just a quick, easy fix. It's definitely not easy, but
And I also want to add, like, I am not against plastic surgery, by the way. Like, I've even looked into getting a breast augmentation myself. Like, I'm very, like, that's not something that I'm against by any means. Where I have a problem with it is just this societal pressure to, like, go get these surgeries to, like, meet that body standard. But if you have a BBL or you want to get one, like, no hate or shame towards you. It's just more so, like, it's sad to see that there's such a pressure to meet this unrealistic standard for women. And, it's crazy.
I saw something on TikTok too that it was like there's two different like types of BBL. There's like a natural BBL, and then there's like an ant BBL.
Oh, ant? I see. This is new for me.
Yeah, no, I just saw this yesterday. I was like, what? And I'm like, you know how like on TikTok you can see on the top it like suggested like search. I click it and I was like, what's an ant BBL? And then it like shows up. I think it's just like if you want your bum bigger or if you want the hips. Like the natural one is just the hips, but the ant one is like a bum.
Okay,
too.
Interesting.
And you look like an ant.
I see. One thing I had saw like about the different BBLs is that there's like they call it a skinny BBL. So it's like you're doing like the fat transfers and like you're doing that, you're still performing the same surgery, but it's not as drastic, so you can't really always tell that that's been done. I think too, like a lot of people don't realize that you can do like Sculptra, and that can like be like a non-surgical version of like BBL, but it's not actually BBL, but like you can get those injections, and that's just filler. And a lot of girls have that. A lot of fitness girls too. Yeah. That you would like. I know, not to like be talking poorly, but I know in the bodybuilding industry there was some talk that there were pros like at the top level that were like getting Sculptra in their glutes, like the bikini pros and the wellness, because they need such big glutes. Right. And I'm like, that is sad, because that kind of defeats like the whole purpose of it.
And it also like diminishes every other person's like hard work. They're trying to do this and then they're keeping that secret, like, oh, you have such a big...
It's just, if we have to go to that length, then it's not. Something needs to change. Like the criteria or whatever, I don't know. But I think, yeah, it is interesting. Just like how many different procedures are available to like address insecurities. And like, I think too, what's interesting is like, I feel like the algorithm targets young women more with like, here's this like filler update, here's this Botox update, here's this, you know, and I've gotten filler, I've gotten Dysport, like I do those things. But like, there's just such a pressure on girls to like be doing that and like prevent aging and like have this, you know,
right. You see like the young girls in Sephora buying like anti-aging things.
Oh.
Honestly, save them for me when I'm 30 and I'm like getting wrinkles. I need that.
Yeah.
Like you don't need that when you're 12.
Mm-hmm.
Your skin is still so elastic that it can just go back. But yeah, totally with that's crazy in the bodybuilding industry that they're doing that.
Yeah. But like, I think social media has had probably the largest impact on body image the past at least 10 years, you know.
Absolutely.
And I know there is a lot of research that supports how detrimental social media can be to somebody's body image. And my friend Mia, I talk about her constantly. I always try to refer to her when I'm talking about this because she did a whole thesis on it of the social media and the role that it plays in body dysmorphia and how significant the impact was, which I think is interesting because so much of what you see online isn't even real.
Exactly.
It's
like
really
almost
distorted.
everything is photoshopped. Mm-hmm. Almost every single thing.
Yeah, before we did this podcast, we were looking into some statistics for it, and pretty much everything you see online is retouched. Which, like, so if you don't look like the people you see online, like, don't feel bad, they don't either.
Exactly. Like, that's not actually what they look like either, which is so sad, and it's like, you see all these people and then it's just a waterfall effect of seeing people, oh, they look so good, I want to look that good, and then I try to do that, I edit my photos, someone's looking at your photos, they're like, oh, I want to look that good. It's just a complete waterfall effect, and it starts to snowball until every single person is editing their photos, and you have to have like someone real who is going to tell you, hey, like that's not what you look like. And just so you know, the person that you're trying to be doesn't look like that either. There needs to be just kind of like some sort of reality check for those people, which is unfortunate. And I obviously went through it like for a long time. I did that in high school. Like I would like edit my body just a little bit, so it'd be just like a little bit rounder in the hips or like bigger boobs or something like that.
Yeah, Facetune.
And I got to a point where it's like, I really don't need to be doing that. I'm actually really happy with this picture and I don't feel the need to edit my body in any way. Like, it's not gonna look good. And then you think in your head, oh, if I retouch this, someone's gonna know. And then that fear almost is like, oh, I'm not gonna do it then. So you don't necessarily want people to know that you're editing your photos, even though you're doing it. So you're trying to do it inconspicuously.
Which like messes with you more.
Exactly, you're going so much into detail. You're zooming in so far to see if you can edit the smallest little thing that no one's ever gonna notice. No one's zooming into your pictures, checking if it's edited, but there comes to a point where it's so edited and you have so many filters and you have so much blur on your face that you look poreless and all these things. It's very noticeable.
And I think what can be even scarier is like there are social media, I hate to use this term, like influencers that kind of like prey upon some of that like poor body image in a way. Like there's entire influencers like Liv Schmidt who got banned from TikTok.
Yeah, I just made a TikTok about her.
Yeah. And for those that don't know, she was like a girl that like had undergone some weight loss journey, and then she was posting like tips for how to stay skinny. But the way that a lot of these things were worded was very toxic and very harmful to a lot of people. And so I know that a lot of people reported her and her account was taken down. But like there are entire influencers that like make that their messaging.
Their entire like persona online.
And I feel like that's very challenging because then people are looking up to somebody like that, especially like younger girls. That's where like really.
And she's like very pretty. So like
she's gorgeous.
She's gonna be on your For You page because she's so pretty. Yeah. And then you see the message she's putting out. And imagine like 12-year-old girls hearing that be like, oh shit, I need to be doing this in order to like look like.
I feel like when I was seeing when I first like saw her account, I remember seeing a lot of people's reaction videos to her and like, who is this? And I kind of feel bad for her in a way because she's probably struggling and doesn't even recognize that she's struggling. And there are people that are like attacking her And so like my brain, like from like the RD side of things, goes like, oh, that's not the way to do it. Like that's not the way to address it. Like I can understand people being frustrated and think that's toxic, and I agree. But I think she's probably very mentally sick herself, and like doesn't recognize like how harmful the content is. And so I'm like, she needs to seek help at some point.
Exactly.
But
yeah, there comes to a point where you're like, and your pathetic self though, and says,
yeah,
oh, like there's something going on. There's something deeper happening.
Well, that's it. I'm like, she's sick.
Yeah,
she's sick.
It's a more deep-rooted problem than what you're actually just seeing.
Yeah. So it is scary, but socials are, I don't know, toxic. That's why I think one of the biggest pieces of advice I give to clients when we're working through body image is like unfollow the fitness accounts, unfollow the Instagram model. If you're looking at their account and you feel bad after looking at their account, then there's no reason for you to be following that. So unfollow it, follow more dogs, follow more like cooking inspo, like what you're passionate about.
I like to say follow more like body positive accounts.
Yes.
Too. Like
absolutely.
any sort of size, it's very inclusive, all of these things, because what you see throughout the day is going to be stored in your mind. So like if you're looking at these just influencers that are editing their body and doing all these things, promoting stuff that they isn't great for you, that's going to be stored in your mind, and then you're going to be processing that when you're sleeping, and then the next day it's like processed in your mind. So when you follow more body positive and you immerse yourself more into that world, it's going to change your mindset.
Absolutely. What's really cool about our brain is like the neuroplasticity piece. And you can change the way that you think, you can change your behaviors. It's hard, it's not easy, but like you can do it. And that's where I think the concept of like body neutrality can seem so foreign to people, like especially if you're struggling with body dysmorphia or having a difficult time with your body image. To think that you could feel neutral about it seems very overwhelming. But doing things like Kate just recommended, like following accounts that like women are speaking positively about their bodies, they're not photoshopping their stuff, their whole personality isn't how lean that they can stay all year long. And I feel like when I made the decision that I no longer wanted to bodybuild, that's one of the first things I did was like, I gotta revamp this whole For You page and like my intake of things, because I just, as much as like that was a fun thing to do, I don't want to really like be seeing that all the time, because I don't want to feel like I'm second guessing myself, like, oh, should I continue to compete, or like, oh, do I miss it? And I'm like, no, you don't miss it, like, you know you don't. So like get rid of the, anything that could skew your judgment about that and like make you feel poor about your body or the way that you're doing things. So I think that's really great, following the body positivity accounts.
Yeah, definitely. And then just learning from them positive self-talk. So instead of like looking at your body and seeing everything wrong with it, think of the things that you can actually do with your body. Like take your sense of identity out of weight and out of how you look, and focus it more on like what your mind can do, what your body actually can do. So like if you're really strong, focus on that. Like, oh, I'm super strong, and like my body may not show it, but I know that I'm strong, and I can show people that I am strong.
Right. And thinking about like, we're only, this sounds maybe a little trippy, but like we're only here for so long on Earth. Right. And I think as I've gotten, I'm not old by any means, but like I'm older, and I feel like I've really recognized like I don't want to spend so much time worrying about my body image, or like worrying about, did my weight go up 3 pounds or not? Like I think for a lot of people, they get to a point where they're like really sick of that. And so I think making sure that what you're intaking is in alignment with like where you want your mindset to be is very helpful. And I think when it comes to focusing on like working towards a more body positive attitude, like reducing your mirror checking and like taking photos of your body can be really helpful, because the more we look at our body, unfortunately, the more we're gonna find wrong with it. There was a study that was done, and there was a group of people who had a very positive body image. They didn't really have any body dysmorphia. They're like, yeah, my body's just a body. And they had them stare in the mirror for a certain length of time every day. And by the end of the study, they all had poor body image. And it was a significant impact. So I think one of the greatest things you can do is reduce that mirror checking. Take some of that focus off of what you're looking like all the time. Put your focus into like how you're feeling, like how strong you are. And that's going to benefit you so much more.
Exactly. Another thing about mirror checking is when you're going to changing rooms. Like the lighting is going to impact how you look. I remember going shopping at Aerie. Yeah, the dressing room, that can be like a very sensitive topic too a lot of people. Like the dressing rooms are very, I don't want to say hit or miss, but kind of like hit or miss. Like the light, all these things rely on the best angle, the best lighting, how your body's gonna look in each of these things. And at Aerie, when I was shopping there the other week, they had something in the dressing room and I was like, oh, why is there a curtain here in front of the mirror? And I opened the curtain and it says, don't focus on what you actually look like, focus about how you feel in the clothes or something like that. And I took a picture of it. I'm like, this is the best. Like I tagged Aerie. I was like, this is the best. Who's ever your marketing person, like you are doing great things.
Yeah, that's cute.
And it was the first time I'd ever seen that. In 2024, the first time I've ever seen that.
I love that.
So I think that's really important. And I think some people might have been like, oh, what's this curtain? Like that's weird. Why is there a curtain? Not even opened it.
Right.
But it was such a cool idea to me that was there.
Yeah. See,
and I just really really appreciated it.
Yeah, I think that's really cool because it's kind of looking out for people that like have eating disorders and like have issues with their body, which are like more people than you think. And you can't look at somebody and know like they're gonna have an issue with their body or not.
Exactly.
And I think that's awesome that Aerie's always been great about being like body positive and like having like real women as their models and like showing diversity within their body types and things, which I think is great. But that's awesome. I freaking love that. Yeah, hopefully we see more of that come about throughout our lifetime.
I know. I really think they should like put that in way more like changing rooms or something like that. It really like changed my look. I'm like, oh, I didn't even really think about, because I never really had a problem with dressing rooms, but I didn't think about the other side of like, oh, someone may not like what they see in the mirror right now.
Absolutely.
And that might just fuel the fire in their mind.
Yeah, definitely. No, I feel like another kind of little thing about body image I wanted to add to, in terms of like just being able to work through sitting with the tough body image, it's not something that's going to become resolved overnight. I think a lot of people that I work with initially, they get really excited because they know that they're working to fix their problems with their relationship with food or their body image, and then they get frustrated with themselves when they haven't fixed it in 2 months.
Right.
When it's been years.
Yes. Yeah.
Years of like distress.
Exactly. Yes. I find a lot of people like think that when they start something, they're going so hard and they're like, why haven't I seen any change within the last 6 weeks? I'm like, that it's going to take so much longer. Not that that should be like a scary thing per se, but
that's right. It shouldn't be scary.
It's more so you have to know that your body went through so much throughout the years that it's going to take longer than just 6 weeks to fix it. Like it's going to take a long time of you mentally working, physically working, all of these things to really change your body and change your mindset.
Yeah, I think that is the biggest hurdle, is that I see a lot, and I think a lot of people that have body dysmorphia and body image related issues, relationship with food issues, there is a personality type that we haven't, like it's evidence based, like to say like type A is more likely to have these issues with food and body, and those people also are high achievers, high performers. They usually accomplish a lot of things. They are, straight A students usually, like that type of personality. So when they can't fix something right away, or they don't get something right away, they get very frustrated with themselves. And I see that often. And I even remember myself going through my own journey feeling frustrated. Like, why can't I just stop? Like, I struggled a lot with binge eating. That was like my big thing, like later in high school and like early college with like competing, was like binge eating. And I was like, why can't I just like get this to stop? Like, I know so much, like how do I stop this? And I think it really just takes time, and like alleviating restriction is so important for the food piece. And I also think that's important for the body piece, because there is a part of you that needs to learn how to accept yourself and love yourself, even if there are things you want to change about yourself at the beginning of that process. So that way, when you're maybe starting to go to the gym, maybe you're starting to pay attention to your nutrition more, it's coming out of a place of self-love and
instead of self-hate.
Yes,
exactly.
And I think you find that the longevity with the lifestyle change is so much better, and you're able to accomplish so much more through that, having a positive mindset. But it's hard. It's harder to do than it is said.
I totally agree. It's gonna work so much better if you have so much more self-love than you do hating your body. Yeah. And you're gonna want to be doing it. It's not gonna be out of resentment.
Yes. And then that creates a more positive relationship with exercise and food, and like what healthy means to you. So yeah, I feel like that's kind of it. Body image, kind of unpacking. I feel like those are like the biggest areas to dive into. I don't know if you have anything on that.
No, I think we hit all the spots.
Yeah.
Well, I hope that helps.
Yeah.
If anyone was struggling with that and wanted to learn more about that.
Yeah, if you're curious about diving into more body image related work, I will link in our show notes some resources for some body image workbook, the intuitive eating workbook, and we're always open if you're looking for more resources. But yeah, amazing. We'll see you guys.
Yeah.